Welcome. So, we have progressed a lot in discussing the consumer decision making models. We started with the micro and macroeconomic models of decision making. Thereafter, we have talked about the Nicosia model, Howard-Sheth model, the grand model, that is the EKB model, and which was further revised to EKM model. And now, we are discussing the next model, that is Sheth-Newman and a Gross model of consumption values. This was relatively new and it is propounded in 1991. So, much after the acclaimed Howard-Sheth model formulated in 1969, Professor Sheth along with Newman and Gross developed another advanced and comprehensive model of consumer behavior comprising of 5 consumption values that influence the consumer choice behavior. We can assume this model as an extension of the Howard-Sheth model. So, they are talking about 5 major consumption values: functional value, social value, conditional value, emotional values and epistemic values. We will discuss one by one. The first one, the behavioral scientists claim that any or all of the 5 consumption values play their own roles while the consumer contemplates to a decision. Now, Sheth in 1991 claimed that most of these theories behind the model have been drawn from the studies and research findings across the diversified disciplines of economics, sociology and several branches of psychology, marketing and consumer behavior. Most of the consumption values mentioned in the model are consistent with several constituents of the theories propounded by Maslow in 1990, who is talking about different motives, 5 motives mainly, Katona 1971 and Karch 1960. So, Sheth et al. Like Sheth-Newman and Gross, they have articulated the 5 consumption values as I have mentioned is functional, social, conditional, emotional, epistemic to shape the centroid of this model. So, to start with the first value, that is the functional value of the product, and how they have defined the perceived utility acquired from an alternative for functional, utilitarian or physical performance. That is what they are talking about, the functional value. And further they are saying an alternative acquires functional value through the possession of salient functional, utilitarian or physical attributes, and functional value is measured on a profile of choice attributes. In attitude formation, we were talking about the ATO, attitude towards object, where we were measuring the functional the customer's belief about the functional attributes of the brand. It is exactly that we are talking about what benefits we derived from the brand, not the emotional benefit, but the functional benefit. So, I will explain in details that Sheth et al. Has claimed that the functional values, being the most important parameters behind the customer's final choice, deserve special analytical focus here. The presumption is much in line with the economic model mentioned by Marshall in 1980, because here also we think that the person is a rational economic man. As we have seen in the previous case of mobile handset, there the customer was taking decision based on the functional attributes of the product, like they were talking about whether the product is stylish, whether the price is affordable or many other add-on features. So, basically the functional attributes of the product, not emotional. So, therefore, also some esteem need was attached to that, that is a kind of emotional attribute, but mainly they were also talking about some the evaluative criteria was on the basis of the functional attribute of the product in that case. So, those are so we assume them as a rational economic man. Farber 1973 took the rational economic man concept a step further by concluding that the brand options are often evaluated in terms of their various functional traits such as reliability, durability and price. So, for example, decision of the purchase of a brand of laptop may be based on its price, proximity to the service center and the service records. According to Solomon in 1996, he has said that once the most attractive functional trait of the product perceived by the customers is recognized, marketers are in a position to determine that which of their unique selling proposition can motivate the prospects. So, for example, lot of toilet soaps are there in the market, but Lifebuoy is in this recent ad is talking about it is having active silver, and it is portraying that active silver protects from various germs. So, that is why the children are fed with silver spoons and all. So, that is Lifebuoy is having active silver. So, it shields the users from different kind of germs. So, if you are talking about the customers who are very health conscious, then this may catch this particular USP may catch their attention. So, similarly, we have talked here the communication and packaging strategies can be formulated highlighting the already identified functional traits, like in the recent advertisement they need to be protected from indigestion in several locations. Festive bonanzas, these also come as different kind of functional stimuli. Then cuts, because this particular Sheth-Newman gross model has drawn a lot from the theory of cuts in 1960. So, Kurtz has further enhanced the functional theory by his own contribution. He has defined 4 specific functional values based on the particular attitudinal parameters of the customers, and these functions are utilitarian function, value expressive function, ego defensive function and knowledge function. We discuss first one is the utilitarian function. What is that? The utilitarian function is based on the very basic proposition of reward and punishment. In most of the cases, the customer form the attitude based on the perceived satisfaction or dissatisfaction generated from the consumption of the product. So, it is the perceived utility, whether I will be satisfied after using this product or not, that is the perception. And then comes, and mostly this is depending on the functional attribute of the product once again, like if I am paying so much for this product, will I get the adequate satisfaction or the adequate benefit, cost benefit kind of thing. Then comes the value expressive function. The marketplace responses of the customer are often influenced by his or her core value, self concept or even extended self. Therefore, following Kurtz, we can state that the value expressive function sometime or the other outweighs the objective benefits a person may derive from the use of the product. Now, value expressive functions, like if it is of your core value, like your self concept, you want to portray yourself as standing different in the crowd. So, therefore, the Raymond's complete man may attract you, J. Hampstead's in a different league, that kind of slogan may attract you. Now, there are certain ego defensive functions also. When a consumer seeks protection from self, either from external environmental embarrassment or internal feelings, he often resorts to an ego defensive function. Now, marketers, they are also these days designing the message, advertising messages, often by using ego defensive cues. How? Anti-dandruff shampoos. They say that a person is embarrassed in the stage show because he is having dandruff. Sometimes bad body odor, Rexona underarm deodorant. We are talking about bad body odor, so everybody is laughing at you. So, this and then crack cream, that also started with this kind of philosophy. They started saying that like fatty area kind of campaign, and a person wants to hide that quote unquote fatty area, and crack protects from that scratches in the skin. So, this kind of things, these are all ego defensive functions. Knowledge function, it has been argued by Kurtz that attitude is often developed as a consequence of a need for order, structure or meaning. Knowledge function is particularly relevant when a person is in an ambiguous situation or wants to use he wants to use a new product. So, that time he may seek actively opinion from the opinion leaders. And particularly for the products like medicine, for the products like books, usually people seek opinion from the opinion leaders only, like doctors or like teachers, they seek opinion from that. Even when you want to buy an expensive laptop, when you want to buy a car, you may go and you may not be very sure because it is an expensive purchase. So, before taking a final decision, you may want to talk to your friends or other experts who have more idea about this kind of choice. So, that is kind of knowledge function, we come to the second value. The second value which they talked about is the social value, and it has been defined as the perceived utility acquired from an alternative association with one or more specific social groups. An alternative acquires social value through association with positively or negatively stereotyped demographic, sociographic, cultural and ethnic group. Social value is measured on a profile choice imagery. I will explain. The term social imagery envisages all pertinent primary and secondary reference group which are expected to be the driving forces of the product use. The customer may positively or negatively typecast depending on how they intermingle with varied demographic like age, gender, stage of the family life cycle, etc. Economic, what is the disposable income, psychographic, attitude and motivation, religious, that is religious or ethnic groups of people. This is their social value which they derive, because if I feel that my similar age group or my similar gender, my similar social class is using a certain brand of nail polish or a certain brand of detergent, I may also be inclined to buy that, because either I do not want to be odd man out or I want to be conforming to my group's choice. So, this is what is my social imagery, whatever my same group in my age, gender or stage in the family life cycle or my same economic class are doing, I will also perform in the same way. So, generally the consumer decision heuristics for the products which reflect individuals' personality traits or social class due to their high visibility like apparels, watches, accessories and the products to be gifted or shared with other members of the group are often influenced by the social values. For example, when you are buying jewelry for your daughter's wedding, when you are buying jewelry for wearing in the festival time, when you are gifting somebody some watches, some jewelry, some apparels, something which will reflect your choice, reflect your personality. So, then you will be more involved in that kind of decision, and that and then you will try to derive actually the social value, how you are recognized in the society. Okay. A is your belongingness need with the society, how you are at par with the other things and how you are expressing your love, your joy with the other fellow members in the society. So, A is your belongingness need and B is what kind of esteem need also you are satisfying in the society. So, that gives you the social value, how you are conforming to the group norms and how you are satisfying your belongingness need as well. So, many a times even the selection of products and brands which are likely to be governed by the functional traits are often chosen on the based on the social values. I will just talk about the say advertisement of life insurance like LIC, where it has to be chosen based on the this is an insurance product where people it is a highly financial product. So, it should be chosen based on the premium structure and many those kind of things. But here the ad if you see of LIC shows जिंदगी का साथ जिंदगी के साथ भी जिंदगी के बाद भी, which shows that how the lady is a mother is fulfilling her duties and responsibilities by getting her daughter married. So, in this case it is primarily the social state value which has been used to drag the attention of the customer towards the functional, because after this, after you catch the attention of the customer, then it is easier to tell them about the functional traits, that is the in this case the premium structures. Now, coming to the emotional value, the perceived utility acquired, this is the perceived utility acquired from an alternative's capacity to arouse feelings or affective states. An alternative acquires emotional value when associated with specific feelings or when precipitating those feelings. Emotional values are actually measured on a profile of feelings associated with the alternative. I explain. By this, Sheth-Newman and Gross have showcased the customer's perceived utility as a set of emotional reactions extracted particularly in the course of product usage or the consumption experience. The concept of consumption emotion has been explained either by the particular types of emotional experience and responses, bliss, resentment, anxiety, or by structural dimensions, forming the core emotional categories like comfortable, uncomfortable, leisure, action, serenity, acceleration, all these things. Right. So, therefore, this plays some kind of attention to it. Like here, I will just tell you something like an old tie may have as a particular brand of tie, maybe that brand I am wearing during my first job. So, I am emotionally attached to that particular brand. Similarly, the marketers often resort to customers' emotional responses such as a sense of jubilation arising out of viewing a gala party in the television show associated with the product design to the design of communication message. If you remember, of late the emotional the messages which has been shown in the you can see here, that is the messages which has been shown in the Flipkart, maybe like they are just before the Diwali in the balcony bros, that particular advertisement. If you watch in YouTube, you can watch it. So, there they shows about how they are buying in Flipkart through Diwali discounts, different kind of items, and they are celebrating their jubilance, they are discussing amongst themselves how they are happy with it. So, this is where this is the communication message, and this is exactly the emotional appeal, that is the jubilation. There could be nostalgia appeal also, like in Titan advertisement they have used the kind of nostalgia appeal. Life insurance have shown, as I have already mentioned, they have shown the responsibility kind of thing. The emotional values can be generated through the aesthetic orientation of a product, like maybe a particular boutique. Sometimes the emotional values similar to social values outweighs the tangible and functional traits of the products, even when the product apparently seems to be an utilitarian one. For example, some pain or ties, as I said, that may arouse feelings of pleasure through their association with the first job experience. So, I keep on using that particular brand. So, time and again the behavioral scientists have tried to categorize the various emotions that play a dominant role at the time of consumer decision making. One such study, the eminent behavioral scientist Izard in 1977 propounded the classification of affective experiences which elaborate the underlying emotions attached to the kind of purchase. Not only Izard, there was Plutchik's emotional cycle also, where he has also talked about 12 different emotions of the customer: fear, anxiety, joy, many kind of emotions which actually plays a role when customer takes a decision. And all this has been used in the advertisement, so on and so forth. For example, sometimes we are talking about the fear. The fear appeal or anxiety appeal might be there in a mode of humor, and it might be combined. The anxiety might be combined with humorous appeal also, because if you see the Bharti AXA medical insurance, then you can the particular ad where the person is saying that why am I having a lungs disease, I should have some other disease which my insurance policy covers. So, this is where his anxiety about the coverage of the insurance policies. So, that can be used, though the insurance policy is mainly bought based on the tangible feature, mainly the functional attributes of it, but still this kind of appeals could be used for this. And now we come to the fourth value, that is the epistemic value. The epistemic value is the perceived utility acquired from an alternative capacity to arouse curiosity, provide novelty, and satisfy the desire for knowledge. An alternative acquires epistemic value by items referring to curiosity, novelty, and knowledge. Now, epistemic issues mean the set of values that could validate and enhance the customer's perceived satisfaction level obtainable from a novel product by fulfilling the curiosity, knowledge, and exploratory needs. Alternatively, even a simple change of the product can also generate epistemic value, like product differentiation offers. For example, like TRESemmé is coming as a salon brand. Several amusement parks are coming up, which says that we will provide a very new and very distinct experience. Sometimes, just to break the monotony of the food habits, clothing styles, etc., the customer may excite to epistemic values by trying out something different. Every time, every dinner, I am drinking maybe rice or roti, but at one day I may feel that okay, this is a special day, why not to have a pizza. So, that is why these people usually do this during the festivals and celebrations. So, that is why before Diwali you can see the pizza companies also, they are coming up with buy one get one kind of offers, so that they can escalate their sales at that time. Then we talk about the fifth value, that is the conditional value. The perceived utility acquired by the alternative is the result of the specific situation of set of circumstances facing the choice maker. An alternative acquires conditional value in the presence of antecedent physical or social contingencies that enhance its functional or social value. Conditional value is measured on a profile of choice contingencies. So, basically this conditional value is based on the contingency aspect, the exigency or the time pressure aspect or other conditional situational factors. Howard-Sheth model, we have called it situational factor, and otherwise exogenous variables wherever we have discussed, we have taken something called time pressure or conditional factors, situational factors. So, that comes here also. So, based on the concept of stimulus dynamism advocated by Howard, this model also uses this conditional value, which I have already mentioned. Now, it means that the customers evaluate the product or brand's utility based on a situation. For example, a customer may just go to a local shop to buy a dress of INR 500 to go to college, or this is a buying situation. Whenever the person is buying for a regular wear, maybe he is buying a 500 to 600 rupees dress. When he is going to a party, maybe he is buying a 2000 to 3000 rupees dress. So, this is an occasion. Then the severity or exigency of the situation also matters the choice. How? When you have a normal cuts and wounds, you may go to the local dispensary. When you are having a severe disease, you may go to a super specialty expensive hospital. So, these kind of things. So, thus the 5 consumption values which are recognized in the Sheth-Newman and Gross model, they play as differentiators of consumer choice in any of the particular product or brand. For example, to a first time car buyer, the purchase of the car might provide functional value, that is how comfortable it is to travel to its office, mileage and all these factors. Then the social values, how many peers are possessing this, how will my peer perceive me if I use this particular car. My emotional value, the customer feels secure in owning a car, so that the child may be dropped in the school, that is my safety need, that is my emotion which is attached to it. Epistemic, what is the novelty in this car, like accent, Hyundai Accent, earlier it was Accent, now Accent has come. Accent is talking about the family sedan. The novelty of this purchase is, it is in India the sedan cars are actually never available below 10 rupees of 10 to 15 lakhs, but this is the sedan which is available in the range of 5 lakhs to 6 lakhs, but it is a family sedan. That is how because Indians have an inclination towards buying, they have an emotional attachment towards buying sedan. So, therefore, this sedan has been used as a novelty, and in this particular price range sedan is of course a novelty to the customer. So, that is an epistemic value which they are getting, and finally, is the conditional value, that is my office is quite distant, so I have to buy a car. Okay, so, I am buying it. So, that is my condition. So, for which I have decided to buy a car. So, the critical evaluation, in short I will tell about this model, that Sheth-Newman Gross model of customer choice decisions are usually based on 5 major values which we have already mentioned, but functional value is assumed to be the most important one. This assumption is derived from the Marshallian theory of rational economic man, that also we have already mentioned, and quite often the rational information processing model, this is particularly the lacuna of this model, because as similar to the Marshallian theory, that customers in most of the cases they may not appear in industrial purchase decision, they may be a very rational customer, but in household decision making many times they may actually be driven more with the emotional or epistemic value than the or conditional value than the functional attribute or only functional attribute of the product. So, there this might have this particular theory falls short of interpreting the non-conscious behavior of the customers. So, similarly, the emotional constructs and the role of choice heuristics in the purchase stage are not well encompassed in the concepts of functional and emotional value. Moreover, the model has explicitly spoken of the factors which may shape the decision, but how they form a linear or nonlinear equation of the actual decision making, that has not been analyzed. So, which means we have talked broadly about all these values, but we have not exactly mentioned the variables or the items which can measure these values quantitatively. So, it may be concluded that the common concern of all these analytic models principally underlines with the latent nature of these variables. Okay. So, therefore, it is still difficult to assure that whether the existing models do represent a pragmatic process of a buying decision making in all marketplace as well, unless it is empirically tested with a defined set of variables, so that we can predict the accurate values of all observables and latent decision making. So, this in short completes our consumer decision making models. Thank you.